Welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, April 22nd. We'll call to order at 6:39 p.m. First item of business is review of meeting minutes, January 3rd, 22.
If we could pass over those.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Review and issuance of solicitation permit. Chet Dubé.
It's right there. Yep.
Any questions or concerns from anyone?
None. None.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yep. Give me 1 second. I will make the motion that we approve this solicitation permit for Chet Dubé on behalf of Solarize New England, Leominster, Massachusetts. And is there a timeline request for 1 year?
It's right there.
So thank you. This permit is valid from April 22nd, 2024 to April 15th, 2025, unless sooner suspended or revoked.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Discussion of plow truck loss and procurement.
Agreed. Good. Superintendent McCrory with us.
Welcome, sir.
Evening, how are you?
Glad to say that despite what you're about to share, everyone's okay. No one was injured.
Yes, everybody is okay.
Start with that.
Yes, yep, everybody is okay from the incident. So yes, the last storm, we ended up with a fire. The cause is yet to be determined. Insurance company adjuster has been out to declare it a total loss. And because it's over $50,000 value and is only about 6 months having it, they are gonna require an full investigation on it with every vendor that was involved with the build of that truck. We have yet to hear when that was. When the adjuster was out, he told me probably roughly 2 weeks we should hear from somebody.
On the results or on the
No,
steps?
no, on the investigator actually
Okay.
coming out.
Okay.
Most likely, it'll be done there, because all parties have to be invited
At the
highway garage.
at the highway where the vehicle
Yes.
is currently? Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So, like I say, we have not had that schedule yet. So, in the meantime, Brian has looked into it. We have reached out through the state contract and put out for requests for quotes. One came back, and actually just going over it, there's some very minor things that they missed on it. If anything, it's gonna lower the cost of their estimate.
Okay.
And I can reach out to Cody tomorrow if that's okay.
So we, as the memo stated, we reached out to the 3 vendors on the contract, and as of today's deadline at 11, we'd only heard back from Marcotte as one vendor.
Where did we get the one that we,
Came from
It just went up.
Colonial Ford,
a Colonial? Okay.
and J.C. Madigan was the upfitter.
Who was
And I
up?
believe Marcotte does all the
upfitting?
upfitting in-house now too. I believe they built a new place a few years ago.
You beat me to my next question.
Yeah.
Who's upfitting it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in one. Now, we have to wait. There's not going to be any release of funds until that investigation's complete, or you'll know
Right.
more.
Until we get the claim
Cleared
the
or-
final document, but there's basically a finalization of the claim from the insurance company where we'll say the value, the replacement value is determined to be blank minus the town's deductible. This is the amount that the town is eligible for, and then they'll cut a check along with that. Once we get that notice, you'll then have the equivalent of like an award letter
Right.
to maybe make your procurement off of. Right now, it's a little gray because we know it's been deemed a total loss. We don't have that final document. but the vehicle was insured for replacement costs.
So effectively, less possibly a deductible. It will be covered.
Right, the purchase price was about 119,
119-ish, yep.
and right now this quote came in just around 123.
Yep.
So it's about where you were.
But it's replacement value anyway, so
Right,
escalator or not, it's
right.
covered.
Right.
And as you saw in the quote, or I know you all just got this afternoon, but the quote noted 6 to 10 month lead time on the order. So from when we place it to when we may receive it, 6 months is the earlier end.
If I had to guess, it's gonna be closer to the 10. History,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky to get that one till now.
yes.
What is our deductible?
On the smaller claims, it's been 1,000, but I think this one's higher, so this may be 2,500.
I think that was in part of the stuff from
I
Maya.
think it's 2,500.
Yeah.
I need to double check on that.
That's what the new documents were, but it sounded like it was a change, so I don't know if it's effective next fiscal year or when that went
To
into
the
effect.
FY25 renewal.
Yeah, for up to 50, or it might have been a little higher for, I think it was from 50 to 100, so it might be a little higher if it's 100 to a million, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
But somewhere 25, 3,500 if it's higher than 1,000.
Yeah.
I think 5,000 was the highest on that new sheet, which was a million plus.
Right.
So 1 to 3 or 1 to 4,000.
So replacement minus the deductible.
Right.
Fair enough.
And then it's a new model year, so everything goes up.
Yep.
And that was a 22, right? Because we got last year.
23.
It was just one they had left on the lot.
It
at that
it
time.
showed up just as we called after town meeting.
Yeah, okay. Because otherwise we'd probably be getting a 24 right about now.
Correct.
Yeah.
So here we are again this year.
Yeah.
All right. Any concerns with moving forward? I mean, we know it's already been deemed total loss. We know we have replacement coverage, so I can only think the only other result of the investigation would be someone else has to reimburse us rather than insurance, or they will get that from them and reimburse us.
I would think that probably our insurance company would
Reimburse
chase
us
after
and
that.
They
Probably.
typically do.
Pursue them.
Correct.
So, any concerns with getting?
No,
that
I mean,
order?
if it's already been, deemed a total loss and now it's just waiting on the finalization, we know it's going to be replaced and we know that's a fixed cost for the deductible. I say we just move forward with it. You said there was some small changes though that,
Yeah, there was just some couple minor things in quantities and stuff, like Brian, we had requested 2 of the side boxes like the other truck has. This one just has 1 on it. The lights that they have spec'd on here, it's the wrong light for the plow lights.
okay,
So it's, like I say, if anything, it's, in the body size is too big on this one also. So if anything, this price is, potentially could go down.
once you reduce that
Once-
body size.
Yeah, once, if I'm able to call them tomorrow and just clarify those couple of things.
I suppose the only concern would be if we don't receive those funds by June 30, or are we not concerned in terms of the insurance claim, or is that not an issue? Is there a deposit on this?
No, we don't. There's no
No.
deposit.
Oh, so it's just on delivery?
Right.
Oh, then.
I don't think
never
there's any
mind.
concern.
Yeah, then never mind, because we won't need the money.
We
until
won't need it.
sometime next fiscal year. Unless some miracle happens. But then we can
Yeah.
talk to the insurance company at that point if we have something to act on quicker. But I
Right.
doubt
Right.
that's going to happen,
Right,
so,
it'll probably be in 25.
yeah, that'd be winter. Hopefully by the time we need it, not after.
Yep,
And that's one of those sooner than later type of things if possible, because we all know all town meetings are starting to happen, and people are putting their requests in
Yep.
right after town meetings instead of July 1s in the last few years.
Yeah.
I have no concerns with it.
Do you want to do
I was gonna
like
say,
a
that-
proceed with not to exceed,
yeah,
like 125 or something, and just, if it's something different, we can revisit in 2 weeks.
Exceed
But
125.
Do you think the 125 would cover with the deductible also, even if this comes down a little bit?
it'd be to proceed on this price, not on what the
Okay.
replacement is.
Okay,
It'd be to proceed on a replacement truck, not to exceed that cost.
okay.
It's not contingent on the deductible or replacement value.
Right, that'll
It's
be,
different,
that'll be
separate.
funded in a separate
Okay.
deal.
That'll be the other half of it,
Okay.
which we'll sort out before it shows up. Does that make sense to you guys?
It does.
All right. So when do you want to make that motion?
Make a motion that we proceed with the replacement of the F-550 plow truck, not to exceed a total cost of $125,000. You want to approve Marcotte?
Marcotte,
Yeah, with Marcotte Ford of Holyoke, Mass.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
If
you.
those adjustments change above that, let us know. We'll
Yep,
figure out what we do.
I'll let you know.
You're gonna follow up tomorrow?
Yes, I will.
Thank
Do you
you.
want to stay up here? We've got another one or two for you, right? Might as well jump down to the last one. Discussion regarding use of speed control devices on North and Church Streets. Chief, yes, come on up. Glenn would like company up here, sir. Thank you, sir.
Glenn always likes the chief's company and Rob's.
Happy Monday. Welcome. All right, so we had those up for a period last fall. I don't recall how long it was.
A couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah.
I recall them being not quite as easy as the vendor led us to believe on installation.
Not at all.
But kind of, what were your thoughts and feedback from both of you, kind of in terms of the
The install or from?
the whole
from
thing,
people?
right? Start
So,
to
yeah,
finish.
so the install was way more difficult than what they portrayed it to be. Time consuming, way much more time than what they said it should be. And we fastened them down the correct way. There's no above and beyond to fasten them. You've got X amount of holes to fill, and they were filled. Whether it's the drilling in some other neighborhoods may have been different than ours. Erving is not a sandy area. So there was a lot of gravel, big rock in there. So it took a lot of time. The people that we've talked to afterwards, when we were taking them out, we were thanked for taking them out, because what they thought they were gonna be is not what they were. They were noisy, as we tried explaining to residents in the walkthroughs. People are actually going faster after getting over them and in between them. I don't know. I know Mariah had sent out a survey, and that's what a lot of the comments were on the surveys also, other than being told in person. But there were some people that appreciated them also.
Absolutely.
So, from your perspective, Chief, and
So I think we got less calls about speeding cars on North Street when they were up in that short period of time. I've heard the complaints that they were loud, but then I've also talked with a few people that said that they were effective and they would rather deal with the noise and save lives. My personal opinion is that North Street is a challenge, no matter how we look at it. It's a driving behavior problem. It's not fixed by running radar only. There has to be some sort of structural change to that road. What that change is, I don't begin to have the answers. The money that would go into fixing it, but I do know that, I mean, you know, you think about somebody that drives, we all drive, and when we drive down the road, we don't think about things. We just drive at the speed that we feel comfortable within the reason of the speed limit. It's not thought about. If you do something to the road to make people think, then they're gonna inherently slow down. That's just my opinion. Is that speed bumps? Maybe. Is that narrowing the road? Is it more signs? No. I mean, I don't, you know, people don't pay attention. When you go somewhere, you get in your car, you don't know where you're going, you put it in your Google Maps and you drive, you know, or you have a passenger telling you where to turn. You're not looking at speed limit signs for the most part. It's just people get in their cars and they drive. So I think with North Street, it has to be a structure change in combination with traffic enforcement. I think that there's always a need there for that, but I really truly believe, I was talking with the town administrator today, and I guess these issues on North Street go back to the 70s. So this is nothing new, you know?
No, vehicles are getting bigger, faster,
More people are
more
driving.
people are driving.
So,
GPS is sending more vehicles
GPS.
up North Street than they were before.
yeah.
Though it didn't start with Google Maps. Correct. Based on that timing, you know.
So
but-
that's a little bit of the feedback. I've gotten feedback. They're noisy. I've gotten feedback. They slow cars down. And kind of like my perspective as law enforcement. Again, I don't live on that road. But
Yeah, well, I think drivers are paying more attention. They're more distracted than ever, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's the GPS or not, if the signs are not the first thing we're looking at anymore, so.
In your packets, before Mariah left, there were several residents who responded either by email or on paper, and so those have been included in your packet. There should be some more survey responses. Those right now are locked in a Google account that we're struggling to get access to, so as soon as I have that, I'll forward it to all of you. But I also want to remind you all that we have the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. North Street, Church Street are some of the roads coming up on your plan. We took care of the Gunn, the Pratt, the Central Street. We did those roads a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago.
So you're eligible to apply for another round of Complete Streets funding, which may help fund structural changes to Church and North Street. We would need to work, I mean, you probably remember a little bit of what happened when the plan was created with FRCOG, but I don't think they were looking at holistic changes to North Street. So I think we'd want to work with a designer to meet with the residents, meet with you all, and really come up with a comprehensive redo of that area. To
Traffic
really get
calming
at this
plan, like,
concern.
how do we really
Right,
make change, not just
right,
try to advise people to slow down?
exactly.
Do you recall off the top of your head when the last traffic study was done? I know we were.
Before they were put in or after? Because we had to put in
been a
during,
couple times.
while they were in there also.
Right. So there were studies 2016, 2017, again, right before the bridge was shut, or down the one lane, maybe 2020.
Yeah, because I think they did it for their detour plan also. They were,
Right.
they were doing the traffic counts for
The
that.
initial one that we did was to get the truck exclusion permitted by MassDOT. We had to do a truck study. And then right before they went in, you asked for it to be done again.
Yeah.
So we have recent counts we can get for you as well.
I think they were installed when, it was before we took them out, they came out and done them.
They're like a week and a half, 2-week period. Yeah.
I'd be very curious to know what the change in volume was over that time frame.
Let me actually see if I.
I mean, anecdotally, I can recall working and, yes, there's a heavy volume of traffic.
Last numbers, I thought, I remember there being weekends where there'd be 2,000 cars up that road. I remember the former chief talking about, on a weekend, there'd be 2,000 cars, so.
I seem to recall the same number.
Let's see if we have them here.
I want to say that was 16, 17.
We'll take a look. I think I had them too.
I don't think anybody disputes the fact that speed continues to be an issue,
No, not at all.
speed and volume.
And that's on almost any road nowadays, if we're being honest. Like I say, the amount of traffic that's on the road, just not just on those, it's on all our roads.
Right. Other questions before I take?
No.
A comment, if you guys want to just scoot over just enough for
Oh,
a
sure.
moment for Dan to come up and give a comment
I can stand, Glenn.
or question. Thank you, gentlemen.
Dan Watson. I just want to let you know that I've been trying to pay attention to the plates on the vehicles flying by my house, and the majority of them are out of state, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. I just, I think we should push on pulling them over, ticketing them. It'll help pay the budget. That's pretty much all I had to say. I'd like to see something done, speed bumps I'd like to see put back in if you don't want to do it. I think it should go to a vote. I think there's a lot of us that want them.
Just to comment on that, Dan. So I agree. I think you do have a lot of out-of-staters coming through. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems, is that you have out-of-staters that come through twice a year. They come through to go skiing in Vermont, and then they come back through, and then they don't come through again. So I think North Street creates that challenge of out-of-staters that are coming through to look at the foliage or to get to Vermont for their skiing trip, So if you ticket that Vermonter, they're never going to come back, or if they do, it'll be next year. So to that point, I do agree, and
Good.
I think that speaks to the whole thing, that it's a structure issue down there. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Send a request for COG for that traffic data. As soon as it comes in, I'll get it to all of you.
Okay.
So
Sorry to make more work for you.
No, it's important.
my only question is, are there other speed reduction mechanisms that are approved through MassDOT other than just speed humps, speed bumps? I just don't know what's the palette of choices that we have to do that, for engineering changes within that structure of the road to help slow down as a permanent. And they all come with different drawbacks.
They're all gonna come with a noise.
Yeah, they're all different. I've seen some just last weekend that are completely different that I don't think MassDOT would approve, but they worked. And they wouldn't cause any noise. But I don't know what the limitations are.
Right.
If there's a way we could find out from MassDOT, if there's a list of, speed reduction mechanisms that are allowed through Mass DOT when you're re-engineering a road.
Right.
So something and I don't know if it would be approved by MassDOT, but I think if you can give the visual of a narrower road, then that would slow people down. And I don't know, I'm not saying let's do what Route 2 did and replace, those yellow flappy thingies.
the center line.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I sympathize with the people that live on North Street. I really do.
One of the things I've seen is just it's a bump out, and it comes out about 18 inches into the roadway. And so you literally have to slow down and go around it, or you're going to jump over a 6-inch granite curb.
So-
And you're going to pop your tires, and it's not going to work well for you. So you have to slow down. You have to go around it. There's another one on the other lane. They have to slow down. You have to alternate if there's cars coming. So it's well known. There's bollards on it. You can't drive over it. It's one of those things where, and so the people that plow know it's there. They plow around it. That's not a big deal. It's not like the humps, so you have to go up and over, and you have to lift the plow or hit it straight, or any of those issues. I just don't know if those are allowable.
I think that's why I'm saying if we wanted to tackle this from a complete streets approach,
I think so.
I think we need a designer that will work with the three of you, with Glenn, and with the residents to have that conversation, because you are talking about potentially physical obstructions
Yeah.
that maybe seem unusual, right? From
And that's
a
a smaller
traditional.
layout than most traditional roads.
It's a tight layout.
Already a narrow road, so
Yeah.
it feels odd. And I know what you're saying, you're not wrong, but it feels
Right.
odd to think about making it narrower is a good thing.
But you also, and I'm not advocating one way or the other for this, but some residents have asked for the consideration for a one-way on that lower section. Maybe it's one-way north until you hit the Church Street intersection, then it becomes 2 lanes again. There's maybe a few options for you all to explore with the residents to come down to a final answer, and that may lend itself to a narrower layout even more than it feels narrow today.
Yeah. And part of that would have to happen in conjunction with the bridge being replaced.
So the timing, there's nothing that's ever a perfect timing, but your current trajectory for the replacement of the bridge is spring of '25.
Right.
Construction. So if we were able to start working on complete streets this year, in theory, we may be able to have a project ready for bidding in '25. I don't know that it would happen at the exact same time,
Right.
but the two things could be happening in close proximity to each other.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I was asking about, is there a list, is more along the lines of working with an engineer.
Right.
And I think if Complete Streets, if that section is coming up, I think it makes sense to look at it from a holistic approach when you're talking about sidewalks, bump outs, whether it's risers, whatever the case may be, we all collectively look at the different options and not just a tear out, resurface, and redo sidewalks as is, but enhance it so that you can reduce speed effectively. And also mitigate the noise of what were speed humps, because those, what are they, rubberized or,
Yeah.
they're very loud. I've seen them in other, they're loud. There's no doubt about that. And if you can find other mechanisms that will give the same effect of slowing speed without the added noise, that's a best of both worlds, so.
That doesn't give you, even if we were able to work with the designer and pursue Complete Streets this year, do the
Yeah, it
design
doesn't do
work and bidding
anything.
next year, that doesn't answer what we do this summer.
Correct.
So we still have to figure out what's the short-term solution.
Is there any selective enforcement grant money available anymore, or is that all?
Yeah, there, you still get the, like, the click-it tickets and things like that, the hands-free driving. I actually met recently with a resident, and we have in the past, and I assured them that we're gonna do it again, is my budget will allow for me to give 4-hour blocks, where we focus on certain streets. Typically, we would focus on North Street, Church Street, and 63. The lower section of 63 is kind of where we focus. So I have full intentions on doing that again. I don't want to get into all the
Yeah,
but
well-
details and overtime and things like that. It obviously has to take into consideration, but we will, like when the lake gets ready to open up again, we'll probably throw something out there, and we will continue to do that as we have in the past.
I appreciate that. I'm just trying to think of different
Yep. no.
pools of money that could provide some additional enforcement.
I do agree the challenge is that potentially the majority of those drivers are passing through 1-2 times a year at most.
Yeah.
They are out of state. They're, it maybe generates revenue. It does stop some cars. The fact that it's changing behavior, it's not changing the behavior of the one person that came through who's not coming back, right? And that's not fixing
And
the
it's not
real
like we
issue.
haven't written
No,
tickets on that
absolutely.
road. I mean, we have.
It's just, I'm not going to say that someone from out of state isn't going to care that they got a ticket, but it's not the same, right? And it's not the residents who live halfway up who are driving back and forth every day. Once in a while go too fast and go, hey, I got to pay more attention because it's my neighbors too, right? It's just not that. That's a different. I feel like that's a little easier to change that.
Sure. That behavior is a lot easier to change than
Right.
somebody who drives through 2 times a year.
Right.
The other thing to keep in mind, and I know a couple residents mentioned this in their feedback, is that, as I think we anticipated, it slowed traffic down where we installed them, and as soon as they got past the second obstacle, they seemed a little more frustrated and then sped up afterwards. So the project area needs to also keep in mind the proximity to other homes. So if we stopped at Church Street, that intersection with North Now, that left the rest of that lower North Street area where there's more dense housing to experience quicker speeds. So we would need to probably expand that project area even further.
So, I think we agree it's an issue. We know it is. We want to do, we've tried a variety of different things. I think it's good to look at for Complete Streets, with our next up neighborhood
Sure.
project, if we can. Obviously, we got to look at bandwidth too and pursuing another project right now, but in terms of whether or not to put these in again and go, at this time, I guess, is the other piece of it, And I heard some feedback. I've heard some, for and against, and I've also,
Yeah, it's a
heard
mix.
some anecdotal that because of the type they are, obviously they're not poured, change in elevation. If you go fast enough, what I've heard is that they are softer. So they actually defeat the purpose, potentially. So I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things. And I know it. I've watched it. I've worked in Amherst where there's lots of them in the college area and physical ones. And the habit is to, as soon as you clear it, speed up to the next one. Speed up to the next
I
one.
can tell you, as you leave Industrial Boulevard in Northampton and you head out the back way, there's 3 successive, and you can just watch it. You can watch the vehicles go 20 miles an hour over the bump and 50 miles an hour to the next one, and jack on the brakes and 20 miles an hour over the bump. And so it's, it's a game of how fast can I get
And if they
to the
weren't
next
there,
one.
was it 40 the whole way? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's the pro and con, right?
Yeah. No, I get that.
I don't know.
If we're talking about replacing them as a continuation of, the study or using them as a temporary until we get through complete streets, I would suggest, I know you talked about changing the scope of how many we put in, where we put them, but based on the time and energy it takes to put them in, I would not suggest that we start changing the placement of them, knowing that we're not looking at these as a permanent solution. I would hate to see them spend 2-3 more days drilling holes and putting them in a whole new location, unless we had, some proof that said adding it down here will change. I think reutilizing the spots they were in.
So to be clear, they cannot go back in the same
That's what
hole.
I
So
was
you've had
going to
to fill
ask
them.
you. You have to move
So
them
every time
when
you
we
do them, you have to move them, or you have to re-drill.
There's plastic inserts that go in like a drywall anchor to hold the lag that do not come out of the hole.
With like an epoxy
There was
filling.
an epoxy that was supposed to go in with them also. And I think that epoxy was supposed to be used in like a sandy material, not a gravel material. Brian was out there the day we started epoxying and the stuff was just blowing up out of the hole. And then once you drive the anchor housing down in, now the lag won't go all the way down. You have to pull the lag back out and you have to re-drill it. Once you put the epoxy in, you can't re-drill it. Every hole had to be drilled like 3 times and shot backed out 2 to 3 times before that plastic anchor would go in the ground and that lag would go in. And then sometimes pounding that plastic anchor in for the lag to attach to, it would knock more gravel in and then not be able to sink down all the way. They're not pleasant. Brian spent a few times out there with us. He probably heard things on the street that he probably shouldn't have.
Now, when we took them out, we had to fill them.
They filled in with gravel. As
Okay.
soon as we pulled the anchor out and tried to pull them out.
Around, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're pothole creators too. Sorry, chief.
I'm just kind of hold my hand so they know I have a question. I'm not trying to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Just my own curiosity, I guess, as far as my role goes. Is the complaints more North Street, Church Street, or were they mixed? Like, did the people on Church Street say they were noisy, the people on North Street say they were noisy, or was it
a
just,
mix.
it was a
mixed.
mix, so people
Yeah.
on Church and North both liked and didn't like?
Yes.
We have some
And-
residents who would love to see them back in, and others who had them near their homes. Some who had them near their homes and want them back in, and others who had them near their homes and said it interrupted their sleep, it startled them, the noise it made, and it was unsettling, and they would rather not have that experience again. And there's some physical limitations on both streets because of utilities, because of driveways, because of a whole host of things. So you can't necessarily just shift it 100 feet in another direction.
Right.
Because you may have another obstacle. So
Right.
sometimes you have to shift hundreds of feet to avoid all the other obstacles. There's just a lot. It's a congested area with a lot of access points.
And there's limits from intersections to where they can go also.
You have to be so far from each of the intersections.
And some, whether they were in front of them or not, thought they worked, thought they didn't, that thought they did work, thought they didn't work, thought they were loud, didn't think they were loud. I mean, we have basically every possible combination.
Yes.
From
I'm just
the
trying to,
residents.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, I don't install them.
Yep.
I don't live on the road, but if there's a certain certain person that lives on that road that says, I liked it, you can put them in front of my house, then just put one in front of their house. And
The one closest.
I mean, I don't know. It's
True. The one closest to the park on Church Street,
Yes.
did not seem to upset anybody nearby. Part of it is near town property, and so that there was a request to put that one back in. That didn't seem to be a problem. The one farther up Church Street, I received several
Numerous.
complaints that people would not like to see that again. Dan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the one that was up past his house didn't seem to bother anybody. So if that was to go back in, I don't think anybody would have an issue with that. But there was a concern expressed by people farther up North Street that they then sped once they cleared that one. I had mixed results about the ones farther down the street.
And so I think you anecdotally mentioned it, but then we pull these out seasonally and they create potholes where they were, I'm assuming, with the holes that we have left behind. And yes, maybe some of those
They will
roads,
eventually, yes.
I was gonna say, maybe some of those roads are up for, going through as we're doing complete
Yes.
streets here soon, but once, even if we aren't able to solve everything,
Right.
then if we start putting those holes in it right away, again, potentially, there's an impact to that.
Absolutely.
And if you're moving them every time, I feel like we're just turning it into Swiss cheese at some point.
If they're gonna
But-
go in, it needs to be a permanent, somewhere after this design, it needs to be a permanent thing. So we're not just creating more headaches down the road for potential potholes. As is right now, a lot of North Street is starting to delaminate, from the last project that was done there 12 years, 10
At
years
least 12
ago.
years.
So the hot reclaim in place, and a
Yeah.
lot of that is delaminating bad on North Street now. So, and in that area where the lower one was on North Street is part of it. So I'm hoping to do, and I'll bring this later, with the Chapter 90 project, to do spot milling and paving on North Street. It has to be done before winter time. But that was my other concern with the lower one on North Street. That's one of the areas that needs to be milled and paved because of delaminating also,
Or we just make it a dirt road.
or not.
That'll slow them down.
Rob can have my plow route
I
at
lived
that
on a
point.
dirt road, let's just leave it at that.
I mean,
That was
if
12 years ago?
Yeah.
Hard
had
to
to have been
believe.
2012, 2013.
12, 13-ish,
No,
when that was done.
no, even earlier than that.
Was it?
It was like 11, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. If if you're gonna make a speed cushion part of the permanent layout, the time to do it obviously is when we have the paving equipment out and we can make it part of a single pour and roll it all out correctly. So if you are entertaining changes to North Street, that would be the time to make a decision like that, even if we're gonna do complete streets and change the layout in the future.
What does doing one of those look like now, in place? Permanent one rather than these cushions?
I think it would have to be engineered, whether they can engineer it off from the temporary ones that we use, but it would be milling down, so the joints would actually sit in the milling part of it, so the approach and the descent part would sit in the joint part of it and not be a lip.
And it's 4 feet wide, it's got a ramp on the other
And a ramp
side,
on either side.
so,
So 3, 6, 10, it's like a 10, 11-foot transition.
I'm just thinking if you're doing some patching and need to do some work on North already, knowing what these are involved in and that we're gonna have to pull them out every time, and I don't know. It's not a decision to make tonight if we
No,
put them in
please don't.
permanently this summer, and I say permanently as in for a couple years while we figure
Right,
out some
that's-
better road design.
Yeah, I was just going
More of
to
a seasonal,
clarify that. When you say
non-seasonal-
permanent, it's permanent until we get through a complete
Yeah.
package of
It's
a
not
complete.
seasonal.
Correct, it's not seasonal. They'll
It's
stay in
installed
until
until-
we do a complete renovation of that area.
Because it causes drainage issues also. If the road doesn't have enough crown to it to get the water off those edges of that and get it to go by it, then there's gonna be ponding, there's gonna be icing in the wintertime, and then it's gonna be even more problems. So it is a lot of design work.
what I
So
was afraid of.
so initially where that goes, it may be able to go there, but not work in the summertime. Because North Street is pretty flat through there. There's not a big crown in it. So you could potentially be causing more hazards by putting a traffic calming in there permanently if it's not designed right.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't imagine that it's just a simple, you're there patching, let's cut a couple of lines and throw in a hump
No, it all
to
has
slow
to
them
come
down.
out.
Yeah.
That whole 10-foot, 12-foot, whatever that transition is, has to come out at least down 2 inches.
Correct. And
And
you'd
then
have to
they
build
build
a
a new-
they
And then
build
they
an
would build it into
actual,
it,
Shape
and
and
it would
everything.
lock it would lock into each end of it.
Right.
Got it.
Is it like 3-4 inch?
I think
Transition?
a 2-inch down would be fine. Oh, the total transition?
total
Yeah,
from
it's
the
about
paved
like a
finished
3.5
surface?
or
Yeah.
4
Yeah, I
inch.
was going to say they're 3 or 4 inch lifts.
Right.
Is that what you're talking lift
Right.
above current
Yeah.
grade? Yeah.
Correct. So you have to build that structure underneath it and tie
Correct.
it in, like
And
you
they
said, lock
just
it in.
build it as if it's part of the road. It's with hard pack, and
Right.
they do a regular
Yeah.
build, but they
Right.
do it with a lift.
Right.
A few things
Well,
to think about. I don't think it's going to be.
I
It's
don't
not
think
going to be
we decide
tonight.
No.
I can reach out to your engineer and get some price proposal as to what it would look like in terms of time and cost to do the temporary as well as a complete streets package, so you can think short and long term. See if I can get it for your next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like that.
Glenn can help with that.
Absolutely, love to.
Perfect. Because you can be able, I mean, you can talk through some of the challenges and
Yeah.
Yep.
concerns that you're going to have with plowing and water and things like that too, to at least get a better scope of what would short-term ones look like if we did something
Yeah.
for a couple of years,
Right.
semi-permanent for a couple of years, if you will, before we hopefully come up with a better plan. That
And one of the
doesn't have
reasons.
those, but
One of the reasons I would lean towards a multi-year temporary with the calming humps is you while you still have to slow down to go over those, you eliminate the bump, that slamming noise as cars drive over them, because they are just a regular transition. You'll know when somebody drives over them too fast because their frame and underside of their car will meet the pavement, and so
Yeah.
those people will understand that they should have slowed down. But by and large, if cars are slowing down, you won't hear them go over as you do on those rubberized pads.
Yeah. Either way, I'd say it is still going to be a noise factor.
yeah, I mean, they'll be better. They won't be perfect. They're
Yeah.
still what they are.
Yep.
All right, well, let's bring it back. We'll
Okay.
see what we
Carry
can
it.
get for information,
Okay.
if we have some for next meeting or the one after.
Yep. We
And
can do
then
that.
we'll either make plans or decisions at that point,
All right.
what to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion of the PFAS results on Maple Avenue. Pete, come on up.
So there's a memo in your packet.
One of you, Pete, if you want to give us the short version, we have the memo, obviously, we read through it.
Okay, we completed the first round of PFAS testing at the landfill and the surrounding residents. There was a detection at the landfill and at one of the residents. So working with through time bond, DEP was notified. We followed the first set of protocols, supplying water to the one residence. And we did a second round of testing, and we're waiting for the results now. And once we get those results, we'll obviously go over them with DEP and tie and bond and see where we have to go from there.
Okay, and then we're testing the other properties again, or no? The surrounding ones?
Just the one that had the current hit?
Just the positive? Okay.
Correct,
Or above limit result, I should say.
correct,
Because there is an acceptable level, it's not zero,
correct.
right?
20 nanograms per liter, which is very,
I'm glad you
very,
know that.
very minute. Huh?
I'm glad you know that. And this is the Maple Ave landfill.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay. And I know we spoke a little bit, in my recommendation and the guidance until, we spoke about it here, was for now, providing, necessary potable water, kind of bottled or whatever means that is, that works for the resident and in short term is probably the best. Whether, if it becomes a permanent or semi-permanent, longer term thing, there are services, with like 5-gallon bottle services or something like that or
Yeah.
other ways we might approach it on a more permanent basis, or, you know, if it needs to be done for a while, but I think until we get retesting done and confirm those results, I don't know if it tests lower this time, if we have to do another set and it's best 2 or 3, I don't know how this works, you know, so we'll get that guidance from DEP as we get results, right? Go
Correct.
through step by step with them and the property owner and take action accordingly. But at this point, I didn't feel like we had enough information to take any other more permanent steps, because we're not sure what those might be until we, I'm sure at some point there'll be some guidance from DEP around some
Yes.
requirements that they have, and make sure we meet those, and
Right.
that it's a,
Yeah, they have
you know, it's a reasonable
whole
solution
protocol for it.
for them, yeah, so. And that was to date, that's the guidance, right? It was retest and provide potable water
Yes,
until
Right.
further notice, effectively, right?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
And just to add, though we're talking about PFAS, we've been doing the monitoring for years. All the other test results came back in the normal limits that we have been accustomed to. So those test results have also been communicated to the property owners and DEP.
Okay. We had, out of all of our potable water supplies and our water testing that we do, have we had any other PFAS hits? This is the first one that's been above limit?
For drinking water.
For drinking
yes.
water, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
The main source that's in the town's been no detect.
yeah, okay. Any questions or
None, just wait to see
concerns
the
at this
results.
point? Yeah, we'll keep, if there's timely action required like there was, you know, with this last one, we'll act accordingly, and then we'll update the board, and if there's things we need to make a decision on, we'll bring them to you guys.
Sounds good.
Makes sense?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion regarding the 604B Kiep Brook grant proposal and letter of support.
So you all may recall 2 years ago, I believe 2 years ago, we started to do some study work with FERCog in their planning department on Kiep Brook after we sustained some damage in 2021 with the flooding and the erosion. The initial study was based on existing funds that FERCog already had secured within the agency, where they were studying sources of pollution in waterways. While that didn't really lead to anything shocking or surprising, and it identified some areas of concern, specifically E. coli, it was really to set the stage to do this next level of study, which is the 604B. So this is a Mass Department of Environmental Protection program. FERCog has offered to apply for this funding and be the main administrator of this work. Obviously, it would require participation from the town of Erving, and in working to convene meetings with residents to study the brook and what it's doing. It would look at the entire watershed, which goes up into Jack's Brook, goes up in towards the state forest area, touches upon the town of Northfield, so it's a very large watershed area. But it would work to also address our concerns in the lower North Church Street area, the Route 2 area, the places where town property is, all the residential homes are, where we lost the bridge. So it would look at everything. And the end of this should come back with a series of best practices that can be done in the upper watershed and the lower watershed that may inform action grants. So this is like the next level study that comes out with that action plan. I feel like it's likely going to be reminiscent of like the MVP plan, where we identified
Right.
strategic goals and then we started applying for the rounds of funding to make it happen. This is a little more complex because the brook goes over many private parcels. So we'd have to continue to work and engage with our landowners to try to come up with actually effective strategies that they will be willing to engage on. But
And then there's potential grant funding, like you said,
for the action portion,
to then
right.
take some of the actions identified from this
Right.
study.
And some of it may be action items that we can do on town property. I mean, you were all
Right.
working with Glenn and the team on Church Street Bridge to build that out at a wider, as a wider base in the structure, so that gives you space going forward to alter the channeled walls, if that was one of the recommendations. we're working to put Swamp Road back, the bridge back on the actual embankments as opposed to the abutments that were built into the riverbed,
Right.
right? So if there's town structures or properties that we can alter as part of this, then we can incorporate that into these other projects. But there are going to be likely some specific strategies that are outside of town property or projects that we're not already working on that would need to seek funding for.
Right.
And that may allow us to do it through the action grants. So to apply, FERCog needs to finish putting the applications together by the first week of May and get that ready for submission. And not that they need us to do anything, but if the town doesn't show letters of support and support for this project, it likely is not going to be funded. So the request from FERCog is that the town put forward letters of support. So there's a draft of what could be a letter of support in your packets. The Conservation Commission's been asked to consider to put forward a letter of support, and the Board of Health, who's also working with residents along that layout, have also been asked to consider putting a letter of support.
Have either of them, in conjunction, spoke with the residents along there, seeing if they are interested as well, or at least putting it out there that they could provide,
That's a great question.
letters, like especially Concom and the Board of Health, where they've already had contact with some of the residents, and
I can
we know
follow
there
up.
are residents who are, obviously following this and interested and
Absolutely.
concerned about long-term, what is that brook, how its sustainability and its impact on their properties, in its current state and things like that. So if they wish to, send in letters of support as well to help
Yeah.
it along, I mean, there's no reason we wouldn't want it, right?
No.
We would welcome it, so.
Absolutely.
Give them the opportunity to join in that.
I'll follow up with FERCog to see how the best way to collect that feedback. Is it individual letters? Is it maybe a group of residents putting them together?
Right.
Or
Put
both.
one, or they all sign it, or,
Yep.
putting it out there for everyone who wants to sign, or, okay.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, see if they can work with Concom and Board of Health to,
Okay.
as appropriate, to do some outreach and
Yep.
offer that, or figure out the right solution.
Perfect.
It's one thing for us to put letters in there, it's another for
Absolutely.
the people who live along it to voice,
Right.
their experience too, so.
No, I'm happy to support it. I want it to move forward. I know it
Yeah.
touches on a piece of it, not the contamination, but the flow and the heavy volume. That portion of the study touches directly on the issues that we had brought to us with the last flood and the damage.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, same. Any concerns?
I agree.
None.
I wholeheartedly support moving forward and forwarding this letter. I read the letter, and I have no objections to any of the language.
Same.
same.
Is that a motion to,
I would like to make a motion that we forward this draft letter to Megan Selvey, the 604B grant coordinator from the town of Erving, enthusiastically supporting the application by FERCog for 604B Water Quality Management Planning Grant to fund a project for the Kia Brook watershed.
I will second that. Very well said, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
So we'll let them know we are obviously in support, and we'll sign that letter.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any changes to the letter? I didn't see anything.
I didn't see
No?
anything.
It was fine
No,
as is.
thank you.
And actually, I will print a copy, and you can all sign it tonight.
Yep, definitely.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So we'll move forward on that. And I guess that was my only question. The FERCog's to lead it for us, obviously, and I know
Yep.
we talked about this a while back too. The town staff time in helping coordinate things, right? And
Yeah.
provide potential data and things like that. That's the support portion that
Correct.
we're expected to, right?
Correct.
Provide, okay.
We're going to convene meetings with residents. I think it's going to need our office staff, Conservation Commission, Board of Health, the Highway Department staff. So there will be some interaction from, related departments to the brook. So,
Okay, great. Thank you. Alrighty. Just one moment. Are you here for the warrant for us? It is ready right there, sir. I believe it is all set.
looks all set to me. Good to go.
You can come grab it. Thank you, sir. Discussion regarding former IP mill procurement status.
Thank you.
And this, we ended up having to extend the deadline because of the weather, unfortunate weather. So we received
give the
one.
highlight?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian, go ahead.
So you all issued the RFP back on February 7th. We originally had a March 21st date. As we were working on the budget, you all extended it to April 4th, and then we had a freak blizzard, snowstorm, ice storm, whatever you want to call it. So we did move it out to Monday the 8th. As of the deadline, you only received one submission, and the submission is incomplete. So officially, because the statutorily required forms are not included, you must reject. That's my recommendation to you all. I have spoken to the submission representatives of the folks who submitted, and they are aware it was an incomplete submission. So they're not shocked if you reject it. They understand that. But they were trying to communicate to you all that they are very interested in being in Erving, and they would like to be at this property. Their needs for space do not require the entire building. And financially, their organization is not in a place where they are able to take on the complexities of that entire property and put together what was necessary for a full submission. There's a cost involved with that, as you all are aware. So they wanted you to know how interested they are at being at the site in the future if there's a way to make that happen. So with that being said, I've shared this with Mass Development as they've been our long-term partners on this property to let them know what the status of the procurement is. I also informed them of your efforts for town meeting to try to get the demolition funding approved by voters. They are hopeful that you're successful with that. And I put this in your packet, they have sent a correspondence that they are wondering, thank you, sir. They're wondering if you were successful with the voters to secure the additional funding, if another RFP was to be issued with the knowledge that funding for the site readiness was available through the town and could be scaled either from selective demolition all the way up to complete demolition, something that they put forward. And they confirmed what we've discussed in the past, that towns that are able to be more flexible have other entities that can hold property like this and be more flexible, like an EDIC or a redevelopment authority.
Right.
Of which we don't currently have. So, so that's the status currently of the procurement and where we are on this project. I didn't know if you all, we're not going to accomplish this in the year, even if you wanted to, but if you were even interested in exploring whether or not an EDIC is possible for Erving, I have reached out to our legislative delegation just to float whether or not they would even support special legislation. Because if we got it through the voters and then they weren't able to support it, well then it's not going anywhere either. So I haven't heard back yet, but if I do hear back, I'll share that with you.
I mean, you and I have spoke, EDIC is from, getting some money, I don't know, geez, it's probably 5, 6, 7 years ago when we went out to Lowell and, and received it, the award and stuff, and saw what their EDIC was doing in that area, or redevelopment, or whatever the authority was that they had developed, but, the effort and scale that goes into that, and time and hours, and it isn't just a side project for a few hours here and there
The
for someone
bandwidth
we
and
already
staff
have.
that we do not have
Right.
in order to actually run an E EDIC.
Right. And beyond, don't get me wrong, I think we need to do what we can to nurture more economic development in Erving, encourage our sustainability as a town, but we have like one big property right now that's the focus, and then how many things do we have that an EDIC would really be able to, benefit from existing for? I don't know if there's that much once, we have one or
You
maybe
get
two.
one, or maybe, I was going to say maybe a second, in the future,
But
but
then it's more of a project than it is, I feel like, enough there to really support trying to build something like that right now, or maybe ever, but. So I guess maybe from the formality side, I'll make a motion that we fail the IP mill procurement, or RFP, given there was no submissions that met requirements.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That being said, the feedback from Mass Development's interesting, I think.
Yeah,
About
I was reading
we
through
get
that
demo
and
funding and we have their funding, and then putting that out with we have funding to assist with a proposal. To, yeah, at least that's how I read it, right? Which is
The site readiness portion.
yeah, and I,
yes, like putting out in the RFP, but saying that the town as well as Mass Development have put up funds to assist with site readiness
yes,
from where it is today.
Right.
Obviously, more advantageous the more that you're doing that we aren't using that money for.
yeah, and so I
And what does
think
that garner,
maybe
right?
putting together an additional handout that could be as part of the ATM that talks about article information and about what that vote to approve the funding would entail.
Right.
Because this is, prior to this, it was just a vote to tear it down and it would just be a clean slate.
Right.
And who knows what we do after that? Maybe we put it back out as clean land, knowing that you have Mass Development saying this is not new, that you can do this, and you have a up to certain amount of money, and if they're interested in certain buildings, maybe it is a larger selective demolition, but it's still a selective demolition nonetheless.
Right.
And then they pick up the tab thereafter when it's more manageable, for their academy or their
Right.
business model to pick it up from there and rebuild it.
I remember Dan maybe not articulating it as clearly and the idea and the way to do it, but I feel like I remember Dan Hammock saying, if there was some way we could partner instead of costing, 4 million, say, and it was 2,
Correct.
why wouldn't we want to consider that, right?
Yeah.
And I think this maybe is the avenue to doing that, which is I found interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if we also may need to amend the language,
Potentially.
just to say to demolish or partially. I don't know. We'll have to reread that
Yeah,
language.
we'll
We may
have-
need to adjust it just slightly to allow
Correct.
for us to
Because
potentially hold.
it
and
doesn't
not
have to be an all or
necessarily
nothing.
Spend, right, all of it, or
In part or a whole.
Yeah, up to, yeah.
yeah. Either partial or full demolition or site readiness.
For any future,
In partnership with a developer or something.
yeah.
Okay.
Just to.
So
Yeah, maybe just run it by Donna and see what
Yep.
tweak we might need if we wanted to consider putting something out
Go
later.
for amendment,
Right, if it was approved, allow us to have the flexibility to do that.
yeah,
Okay.
But I agree, whether it's maybe, I don't know if we have time to put something together to put in the ATM at this point, but even if it's just for that night for us to speak to during the
That's what I'm
article.
saying, yeah,
Just to say, hey, we also have this, that we've gotten with some partners' help on options.
right.
And we would definitely consider this
Okay.
to help mitigate that cost.
Which would
right?
still need an
And-
approval for demolition, but it may not be a complete raise down to the ground, and
Right,
all of that is to be determined based on a future RFP.
Right.
right. And we would
Giving
take
us-
that time, not just go straight to full demo.
Right, give us
The next day, we would take the
Correct.
time to go through that process and
one more time.
figure out what the right solution was.
Or
Just
two.
one more time.
Or two. As many as needed.
Yeah, within reason.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't know what we'd get for results, but I feel like maybe then we'd get results we'd actually could review and maybe select something.
Right.
And I'd rather be selecting a valuable future state than just some flat land,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
if we can.
the current 600,000 that we have isn't enough to make an impact on a future buyer.
Right.
Or a potential buyer. But a funding source of up to a few extra million in order to selectively demolish and leave behind certain buildings that, as part of an RFP, they are then building back up. And part of that could be, we will not be doing the securing, the RFP would have to be, we could do all of that. We will demolish, you will secure and rebuild if that's the building you want to keep. And we can work all of that in to lower our cost and lower the debt service that we need to make this happen.
In the meantime, are you okay if I get a surveyor's proposal to start working on an A&R to break out the pump station
Yes.
and the other piece? Because the other piece that you said in the planning for ATM was that you may ask the treasurer to just auction it off. If
And
you're
we need
going
to
do
parcel that out.
Yeah, I need to make sure that we keep the pump station. And a piece of the pump station got built on the property because we had this plan to carve everything out
Oh,
afterwards.
yes, of
So
course.
I'd like to get at least the official pieces done in case you do auction it off, and then we don't have the opportunity to work with somebody.
And then we just put in that whole pump station and gave it to somebody else and said, here, you own it now.
We need to keep it.
Yeah, no, that needs to stay ours.
So I will get us a proposal for that too.
Yeah, we can get a proposal. I don't know that we'll do that until we figure out what path we're going. I mean, we'll need to do something at some
Correct.
point, but it may
Right.
depend on what we do. But yeah, nothing wrong with getting a proposal.
Right, excellent, okay.
Okay. Review letter of resignation from the Conservation Commission from Carolyn Berg. So appreciate her time on the Concom and understand that there comes a time for everybody, and so appreciate the time that she was able to put in, and maybe sometime in the future can join again or take on a different contribution to the town in a different way. So that vacates a term ending June 30, 26.
Correct.
Right, so it's about 2 years
Mm-hmm.
to go. So we'll put that out for, in our list of vacancies, obviously, and
Well, that's your next topic.
then we have already an interest. They have a vacancy before, though?
We had an,
An
we had a
existing vacancy, right?
We had a vacancy. We had somebody fill it. Then we had somebody who was planning to vacate the position. So we continued to advertise to see if there was more interest.
Okay.
So we've been advertising for somebody on Concom
Yeah.
for months.
Vacancy or projected vacancy, or
Right.
this vacancy, we've
Right.
been, yeah.
We've been
that is
advertising.
kind of
I was
what
going to say, I
getting
don't
at.
think we have to really, at this point, I don't think we'd have to go back out and advertise it
No,
again.
I didn't mean we did. I was just trying to wrap my head around whether we had two right now, or because of
Technically
this
one.
one, because I think we thought we were going to have one.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily this one.
I do anticipate
And
another
so we
resignation.
anticipated one,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so anyway, the ongoing is that it's great that we have someone now, because
Yes.
we probably still have another
That's
Right.
correct.
to
Okay.
fill. So
Fair enough.
that's where I was trying to get to, sorry.
That is correct.
And so then we have letter of interest, review of potential appointment for the Conservation Commission, Marty Garcia. So this would be that June 30, 26 term.
Yeah.
If we wish to appoint.
I've known Marty for a long time. He comes with some skill sets that would work well on the Concom.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I have no concerns about Marty as a Concom member.
Excellent. I feel like I probably know him if I saw him in person, but
Yeah, you would.
The name's familiar, but I don't think I've had
Yeah.
the amount of interaction. It's just not clicking. But yeah, no, I don't have any concerns either. Seems like it would be very helpful
All right.
and bring some skill to it and some different perspectives. So
Yep.
excellent.
Well, with that being said, I'll make a motion to appoint Marta Garcia as a member of the Conservation Commission effective April 22nd, 2024, with a term ending June 30th, 2026.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that, last thing to talk about is calendar
Yes.
for the next couple months. And yes, I'm going to say next couple months rather than just next meeting. So normal pattern, we'd be back on the 6th.
Yep.
The 8th is ATM.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to meet on the 6th, depending on what we have, if we have a decent agenda? Or do we want to just meet early before the ATM and try to squeeze in
I
what
guess I would-
may be needed, or depending on volume?
Yeah, I was going to say, depending on volume, I would leave that up to you to make that determination. I'm available. Obviously, I'm going to be at the ATM
Sure.
either way. If we have to give ourselves enough time, ATM 7 p.m.
7.
So even if we were to meet at, 6, to give us an hour before, if we needed it, if you felt you could squeeze it in there.
Yeah, I think
being-
often we've done 6 to 6:30 if needed,
And then get ready for,
reception,
yeah,
and then be able to get ready for.
yeah. I don't have
Okay,
a,
yeah,
I don't have
well,
a problem with that.
I'll just kind of.
But if the volume
Based on
becomes,
what
if
we
it's
have.
pressing and you need more time and you think it's warranted, then hold a meeting as scheduled on the 6th.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out of town. We're out of town in the morning, so don't expect to be back too late. But I don't know that I could move up from 6 on.
Are you talking
Wednesday.
on the 8th?
On the 8th.
Got
Yeah,
it.
on the 8th, we're out of town in the morning, or
Yeah.
late morning through the afternoon. So I think we'll be back with plenty of time. But I wouldn't want to push that night up anymore because I don't know that. I'd
Yeah, I
make
mean,
it,
we
so-
could always,
we can always
recess
do
it
another one.
and
We can if we need to do it after.
if there's anything pressing that we didn't get to in that extra half hour,
Yeah.
that we wanted to do that evening after. But
Okay. Well, I'll play that based on kind of where we are and,
Yeah.
and let you guys know
I have,
by the 1st or 2nd.
I have a placeholder for the 6th if we need it. If not,
Yep. Okay.
I'll try not to cry.
You can
I was
come
thinking
hang
the
out
same
here
thing,
by
Jim.
yourself if you really want to. I'm sure nobody will mind. So we'll let you know by the 1st or 2nd then on what,
Yeah.
what we're doing for the week, and then following that, so normal schedule will be back on the 20th. We can do that. Brian will be out on vacation during a period there, inclusive of that time. So, which is great. I know, I saw the look, which is great.
Vacation.
Yeah, right.
So he doesn't stress about preparing for it when he's not here. I would rather defer, but the 27th is a holiday.
Right.
So that would mean if we met on the 3rd, if we just went Mondays and we waited till the 3rd, I mean, you're talking almost 3+ weeks, and
yeah,
I don't know
that's-
if we'll pull that off.
No.
That's pretty long. That being said, we could do something the week of the 27th, but not on Monday, potentially. So I guess I would, are either of you the week of the 27th away? Because my thought would be similar to the ATM, or the discussion about the meeting that week is based on what we have, and if there's a urgency, we can put something on that week.
phone with me.
Or you can let me know.
Yeah.
But that's my thoughts for May. I don't see a point in meeting the week after ATM, because I feel like we're going to meet either Monday or Wednesday, and to meet again the following Monday doesn't
Yeah,
make
the
sense.
13th, that week doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And if
And I don't think we're going to have anything so pressing it has to be the week of the 20th. So I'm thinking 28th, 29th, or 30th maybe, if there's enough things that need our
Okay.
attention. And if not, we'll meet on the 6th.
and then we'll readjust
Or the
after
3rd, I'm
that
sorry.
for, on every other.
Yeah, I'm thinking
After
from there
that.
we'll go to an every other. But then again, taking into account holidays again,
Correct,
through the
yeah.
summer. But we can start looking at going back to the every other for a while. You're open for the moment on that week?
Yeah, the only thing I have the week of the holiday weekend on the 29th, we have a meeting with our partners from Montague about the.
Okay, gotcha.
the-
In the evening? Or
It's a late afternoon.
Late afternoon,
So
okay.
I could certainly transition from there over to here.
See, I don't even know if I have the 28th.
We'll be able to head over.
Yeah.
I should have looked, sorry. Yeah, at the moment, I could do the 28th or the 30th, so it looks like, so. I'll just kind of take a look at it. Let me know, Scott, if you
Yeah.
would, when you get a chance, if
Yep.
you have any concerns with either one of those, and then I'll just kind of keep those penciled in for now. And
Okay.
based on how things go. If something comes up and we need to meet sooner, I'll let you know, and we'll put something on for the week before.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I think that kind of gets us through May. And based on that, the other half of this was, we talked about a June STM, about a few different things. I know town code was one of them.
Yep.
And we want to get it done, but it isn't fiscal year sensitive,
Right.
so it doesn't have to be in June. I was drawing a blank on what the couple other things that we offhandedly talked about deferring.
Senior work-off program that we were trying to adopt as a updated bylaw.
Yeah.
Right. But that wouldn't,
We talked about having it in place for July 1, so I think that's why we were looking at a June special.
sure. But if that was August 1, it's not It's not like we're well into it or anything, so we'd have some time. So I'm thinking anyway, based on kind of the just, it's hard to believe it'll be May and then we'll be almost June. I think trying to pull a June together is going to be tight at this point. So I'm thinking of, we'll start working on something in June, but maybe it's a July.
Yeah, I mean, it can
You
be
know,
any time.
July or
I
August
don't,
special.
as you said, I don't believe there was anything that was fiscally dependent on June 30th.
I think the only other thing that we need to accomplish is the amendment to the Care Drive road layout, assuming the voters are supportive of senior housing. So that needs to be done this summer, but if that's June, July, I don't think that
Right.
that's incredibly time sensitive.
Okay. So that's my thought process at
Okay.
this point, just with everything. It feels like we've been nonstop, and I think we all could use a breathe a little, and I'm sure everybody else would appreciate not coming back to joint meetings every few weeks right away after the ATM. So
Right.
we'll take a little breather and come back after.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Excellent.
Anything else? No. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Don't be afraid to tell me no.
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 Okay. After I'd stepped away, I remember that Lori did send me the traffic counts after the speed humps were put in. I
Yep.
sent it to all of you, if you just want to take a couple minutes to look at it while we're here. If not, tell me no and go home.
Well, you put forth the effort for my request, I am not.
So the only
we
thing
asked
is,
for it.
I think on the 21 dates, I think they have the Church Street and North Street just labeled wrong in the attachment. Church Street one is actually North Street.
You think they've
Actually,
been
both of
swapped?
them. Yeah. 21 and 23, they're flip-flop. The ones that are labeled Church Street are actually North Street.
And we had them in place in October 23 during this count?
Yes. These are in between the speed homes. The 23 count is with the speed humps installed.
Okay. Not between them.
It is between them.
Understood.
And Lori says that they're almost in the same approximate location from 21 to 23.
Year to year, or, yeah,
Yep.
gotcha. Can you explain 10 mile an hour pace speed?
What's that?
10 mile per hour pace speed?
Don't know.
Okay, I didn't know if you knew. Jim,
Maybe
you got-
walking?
You know what that one means by any chance? The bottom
Bicycle?
right on that
And,
Walking.
page
and
right there?
it's only on the 21.
Huh? No, I'm looking at it on the 23.
23 too, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, only on the 23. It's
Oh, it's only on the 23.
it's
okay.
not on the 21.
18 to,
Pace, 10 mile an hour pace speed? I have no idea.
Oh no, it is there.
Fastest 70? Jesus.
that's insane.
Even on Church Street,
Yeah.
55.
So you're saying the one that says it's north is church, though?
Correct. Yeah, once you open them up, if you look at the top of them, it gives you the locations.
Oh, you're saying the document title's wrong?
Correct.
I'm just reading the, oh, yeah, right.
I will say
North
that
Street between Route 2 and Church Street?
No, they're
That's what it
they're-
says on
they're
the North
correct.
Street document for
Between,
23.
The
2021 is what he's talking about.
Oh, I thought you said both. Sorry.
no, I misread that one.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the North Street one
North
looks
Street
like,
between Church and Route 2, Jesus. Hit 70. Whew. I'd want to ask how accurate these are, but they do them all over everywhere, so I'm pretty accurate.
No, I was going to say, I can say anecdotally, 55 does not surprise me for Church Street because I have,
55?
55 does not surprise me.
70?
70 on North Street in certain sections also does not surprise me.
From Church to Route 2?
It honestly,
am I seeing
I'm
this
close.
right?
105?
105 on the fastest speed.
Yeah, you're reading that right.
That one says 105, yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, it does not surprise me.
There's enough distance, I hate to say it, there's enough distance, but.
Yeah, there is.
But to be clear, that's not, those are the extremes.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah. Scare people at home.
Well, there's a zero in there too, the people didn't go over it.
Clearly
It's not,
outliers,
it's not
but-
acceptable by any means,
Yeah, of
but
course,
the
of course.
85th percentile, which was often used as a measure,
Yeah.
is much lower than that.
It's 27 on the 23 one, which is actually reasonable. I mean, you can
I
get
think it went
27
down
and a
from 30.
25. I feel like we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think it went down
27,
from
It went down
31
from
to
33.
27. 33 to 27.
Yeah.
It went
Yeah.
from 33 to, 33 to 26 and
If it was
31.
the interstate, I wouldn't
to
care about the
27.
8 over, but on a 25, it feels pretty high. It feels
It's
a
a
little
lot
fast.
different, but
Yeah.
no,
But it's good to see that there was some difference, at least. It's not for naught, all in.
Yeah, it's minimal. I mean, if 3 to 4 miles an hour is minimal or extravagant to some people, I mean, it is 3 to 4 miles an hour.
But for the residents who anecdotally reported that they experienced people speeding in between, there was some data that
Correct.
that captured that occurring. And so that may further inform whether or not we are able to work with a designer to do something that's maybe a little less common for the layout to alter to create some type of physical construct that physically will make them slow down, that they can't speed between the speed humps or the speed cushions.
Right.
Maybe we just let those potholes grow.
Then there'll be different phone calls.
There'll be a different phone call. Yes.
Be slower or broken?
Yeah, broken.
Fix one problem, create another one.
Right?
For the listening audience, it was attempt at humor, that's all. Thank you for getting this.
Find the
You're welcome.
differences. So in the 21, church wasn't closed, right?
No, I think that was when they were doing their detour plan. I believe they came out to a
Came out to
traffic
the-
count and a traffic
Before we
study
closed it?
before it was closed.
So
down to
September
one.
is when we did it.
derated?
Correct.
Okay.
September of that year is when you were meeting with the residents, and then we reduced the bridge.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. The volume of large axle going over was interesting in Church Street. They probably don't provide this, and it's probably speculative anyway, but am I reading that right in the difference in count seasonally? Oh, actually, let me go look at the other one. I didn't add those together. I guess they're not. Just flip-flopped when we derated the bridge,
Yeah,
basically.
yep. I was noticing that too.
Yeah, I was thinking I forgot to do that. Compare them. Because really, North and Church's volumes would have flipped when the bridge went one way. And they kind of did.
All right. Well, just another piece of info.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good to have. Thank you for
Yep, you're
finding
welcome.
those. Did we talk about doing them again this year? Didn't we just talk about that
I
recently?
think the request was already submitted.
We'll have to double check on that.
Yeah, I know it just came out, and I know we were all talking about it, or you guys were talking about it, and I think we said to go ahead and do it, and probably the same areas as well, normal trouble spots.
Yep.
I think we did submit them already.
I know the request was put in, I think, between chief and
Right.
Yeah,
chief and
okay.
yourself.
So I
We'll
may have,
double check.
new data in the next, I don't know how many, when they do them exactly, so next few months, 3 months, 2 months,
Yeah, they try to
They'll
leave
go
them
out
about-
any time between now and fall time.
now and fall.
They try to do 2 weeks in each location, so when the FERCog staff can move it around the county.
Yeah, okay. So sometime this summer, we'll probably get another data set too to compare.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir? Anything else?
No.
All right. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:03.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.